Hello friends, welcome to this channel, Center of Excellence Pharma 4. I'm very glad to share with you that this is my 100th episode. I'm also thankful to all of you for giving an excellent response to my this channel, and I'm sure you will continue that in my future episodes also. In this episode, I'm going to discuss about change catalyst, mastering transformation in regulated environments. As you know, we are focusing on to pharma industry, which is highly regulated with lot of documentation. So before starting, let me give you a background. Our focus is on Center of Excellence Pharma 4 with a goal to achieve excellence by adoption of emerging technologies like cloud, artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, blockchain, robotics, chatbot, AR, VR, and how these technologies can help to solve the industry problems and support to the challenges. With this in mind, we have shared a lot of content onto our website, respa.com. The information is also available onto a Udemy platform where we have designed a course, Smart Manufacturing in Pharma, with about 20 modules. We have launched a YouTube channel almost 5 years back. This has got more than 360 videos now, covering from business strategies going up to audits and validation. Podcast channel which you're listening right now. We also have a book series, and presently there are 9 books have been published onto Amazon. These are available on Kindle and paperback. I request all of you to look at it, this complete digital ecosystem which we have developed it. Share your comment, share these details with your network. So let's start with the today's episodes. So in today's agenda, I'm going to discuss about digital transformation in pharmaceutical, cultural change and resistance management, regulatory change management, technology implementation and digital adoption, leadership and stakeholder engagement, process optimizations and compliance integration, market dynamics and industry transformation, implementation excellence and strategic framework, future directions and strategic implementation, and finally a conclusion. So the digital transformation in pharmaceutical is a big challenge. We have to consider the steps like unlocking the digital potential into the regulatory environment. And we have 5 domains of the transformation excellence. And these are discussed into the subsequent uh, slides actually. We have to focus on to the regulatory environment. As we all know, human factor is the most important thing in the cultural transformation. Even though we have focus on to digital transformation, it starts with a cultural transformation. We always discuss in a holistic approach of people, processes, and technology. When we consider the people, it's a head, heart, and hand. These have to really work in integration in holistic manner to achieve the excellence. So the challenges into the cultural transformations are it's a fundamental yet a challenging aspect is into the change management is a cultural transformation. This is deeply ingrained with the risk averse cultures actually. Now, the skills at a shop floor level, they are habituated with a particular style of working over a period of years and all. So they look at it as a risk into changing this culture. And this establishes into a hierarchy structure. So in a hierarchy manner, it has to start from the top management, decision maker, the stakeholders and all. The resistance to change is there, and what is really happening is almost 51% companies are affected because of that. So primary obstacle is into the innovation. Now there is a resistance into innovation, and when we are really looking for a cultural change, we have to think how we can innovate, whether it's in the processes, practices, data capture, data sharing, decision making with a database and all that. And these cultural barriers are more formidable than technological and regulatory changes, actually. Adoption of technology and regulatory is much more easier, but cultural barriers is very difficult. So pharmaceutical industries have a traditional emphasis of stability, consistency, risk minimization. Organization cultures are naturally resist to change, and transformation initiatives are viewed as a threat to safety and efficacy. So there is a psychology of resistance. And this is what is the most important thing, which is what is contributing into cultural change. How we can face this, how we can help this to implement it, how we can innovate into the culture. We have to have a systematic approach. No, we have to acknowledge the concerns about the resistance, no, from the employees, from all the various stakeholders who are involved into the complete digital transformation of entire supply chain management and all. So we have to create a safe spaces for every individual for doing some experiment, doing some learning and all that. Instead of taking a complete process, we have to start with the small cases. No, we have to see the POV, uh, small end users or particular easy to adopt where we don't expect much of a resistance at all. We have to identify those few things. And once we have some success into those cultural transformation, then we can go on extending it actually. So while doing that cultural transformation, we have to keep the innovation and compliance. Both have to coexist. When we say innovation, innovations into the processes, into the technology, and compliances because we are discussing about the pharma industry, and pharma industry is governed by the compliances. But these two have to work in the integration. They cannot really work in isolations and all. So we have to work and draw the framework with the managing risk and all that. And then we have to encourage the creativity into the problem solving within that regulatory boundaries and all that. We have to have a effective approach. Transparent communication can help to achieve our objectives of transformation. And we have to design a comprehensive training programs. We have to that will help employees to understand how the new technologies or how the new processes which are going to enhance the regulatory compliances, also at the same time optimization of the resources and improvements into the productivity. The leadership roles are very important. We have to focus the change management strategies, and the emphasis should be on a transformation into the entire pharma industry. So we have to also think about proactive regulatory monitoring. So how that is going to work is we have to give that importance. So we have to critically capabilities onto the each organizations have to be drawn. And once we identify those and successful transformation, I can achieve a maybe 65% success rate with the proper initiatives and all, and that will build up a strength for the future initiatives and future transformation. In a pharma industry, it has been observed that over 200 regulatory changes are coming up every annually. It may be into the various processes, various departments, various sections into that and all. And this is what is it's really becoming more and more complex. And that is where there is always a resistance to change from the skills at the shop floor. But the benefits from this comprehensive regulatory intelligent systems, what we really call it, that can give you a lot of benefits. It can reduce the response time into the regulatory changes. See the documentation which is really required as per the regulatory compliances and all, that will reduce the time for compiling those documentations and all. And that can really help the skills to get confidence into the entire systems and all. And that will have a good landscapes. Agile methodologies can help in generating that. Now, this requires a systematic approach into the change management. So even though there are complex regulatory requirements, the stringent regulations are coming up at an all global level. But we have to think about the innovation compliance and keeping it in the mind about the patient safety. So that integrated approach is really required. The uniqueness of organization transformation is if we really look at it, we have to have a need for the sophisticated change management strategies. Your change management strategies, if they are very well drawn, that can give you a good success and all that other thing. And this will go beyond a traditional business transformation approach. We don't have to just think about the business transformation, but it's a digital transformation, which where the business transformation is a part of it actually. So risk aversions and the life of death implications is to be thought about it. Is the maintaining balance between the innovations and compliances is very important. And there are high stakes are involved into the nature of the pharmaceutical product. A high failure rate for the digital transformation is already there. Now, presently, if we look at it, the failure rate is almost 70% into the regulatory industries compared to the other industries. And this is where the resistance to change is to be considered. And this is what is a focus of change catalyst is our objective into this particular episode. So proactive compliance integration is there. This is focused on to regulatory requirements into the earliest planning stage. It should start from the very initial stage, treating compliances as a core component and not as an afterthought actually. So we have to really look at it in a more positive way at the very beginning only actually. Understanding regulatory expectations is more important. It's developing deep understanding of the regulatory requirements for the new technologies. And this should ensure the processes for the organizational structure where you are aligning with the regulations and all that. So processes and compliances have to really work together. For means at each process stage, you have to keep it in mind what the compliance requirements are there. And this will actually reduce the implementation time periods. If you are really very clear about the objectives, about the strategies, and if you start at the early process stage, that can reduce the implementation time. So let's look at it, what are those challenges also. So the lower success rate into this is there basically, as I mentioned into the last slide, it has been observed that 70% failures are there and only 30% success rates are there. This is basically because of the complexities of this particular industry, a regulatory industry, because there are a lot of validation of the new technologies are there, because when you are looking at it for the new technology, whether I mentioned about various emerging technologies, cloud, AI, IoT, blockchain. For each new technologies, you have to also design the validation processes and all that. And I think, in fact, I still remember, and I always suggested to you also, look at it our YouTube channel where we even discussed, from earlier computer systems validations, it is now going to become a digital systems validation. And these are going to be more complex actually. So we have to really be very careful. It should be drafted very strategically, and then that will really help. So there is a need to maintain those regulatory compliances, and this is going to be a very extensive systems validation is really required. So that extends the implementation time period. So more than maybe 2 to 3 times longer than other industries. I'm comparing with other industries with the regulatory industries and all. And this is where comprehensive documentation is required. And transformation fatigue is there, loss of momentum and commitment is there because of many more processes, many more areas to be thought about it into this particular. So these are the certain challenges into there. And technology adoption requires a framework. So complex regulatory landscape is there, stringent regulatory requirements. Again, it is coming up because of the global economy. Now you are working in a global environment. You are importing material from the various countries, manufacturing at a various location, exporting to various countries. So it's becoming a global, and various global entities have their own challenges, their own requirements, and all that sort of thing. And intersection of innovation, compliances, and patient safety is to be kept it in mind, and all that. So, looking at it, organizational challenges is the need of sophisticated change management strategies, which I discussed earlier. Beyond traditional business, you need to have those approaches and all that. Balancing innovation and compliance is there. We have to keep it in mind about the failure rates and then the resistance to change. Another important factor which we have to consider is the user training and support program. If you want to achieve a highest success rate, actually, that will require addressing the technical competencies and regulatory compliances, how these two things will work together, and how the new technologies usage will also support the compliance management. Just to give you an example now, we are also discussing about the IoT, that Internet of Things actually. These sensors can directly capture the data from manufacturing equipments or machines and all. So parameters like temperature, pressures, and this can vibration, this can come directly into the system. They can get recorded and all that sort of thing. So it will definitely save the errors which have been made into the manual data compilation, or it will automatically update the data into the systems, and also it will reduce the time also. So there are a lot of advantages are there which we will have to keep it in mind, sir. And this requires a huge investment per employee for training him and updating it and all that sort of a thing. And but this has got a huge benefits onto a long term, both in a quantifiable or qualitative benefits also. So which we will have to repeat, keep those things into mind. And this is where senior management, so executive sponsorships should be there. It should have also have a vision. So critical success factors are to be taken into consideration while doing this transformation initiatives and all. And that support, along with the resources, along with the strategic planning, and a support from the skills and all, can achieve a 85% success rate. I mean, there are some examples are also available. They are into the various stages of implementations and all that. But this is what is the importance from the pharma industry point of view, so that you have a hierarchical structure, and then that cultural can make with a commitment from the management can drive this legitimacy and importance of these all initiatives and all that. So, as I discussed earlier, is a clear and compelling vision is to be there, and that will create a psychological safety for the teams to adopt to this particular changes and all that. So, just to put it into a graphical passion, so to understand everyone, the change environment and stable environments both are there. So we are moving from stable environment to the change environment where we have to think about the continuous improvements. That startup should be there. So your shaping leadership has to be there. So we have to move from the classical leadership and shaping leaderships, and from visionary leaderships and adoptive leadership. So this is what is a transition has to really happen. So I just tried to show it how this will move actually. So I'm quite sure you will also agree with me and all that. So visionary leadership is there. That role of leadership is very important. This will extend beyond not just an internal organization, but with all those various stakeholders, and it's a broader industry transformation, broader level actually, because we are covering various stakeholders. They are onto the demand side, they are onto supply side, they are onto contract manufacturing side, they are into your own premises, into the manufacturing areas and all that sort of thing. And successful transformation leaders will have a clear connections between all this organizational change and broader purposes are to be considered, and this will accelerate the starting from drug discovery stage to the patient's level, from the product design development and going to manufacturing and finally reaching to the patient. So this entire process of seamless data sharing have to be really kept it. That is where I'm mentioning into the last thing is a broader purpose should be there. No? So that requires some motivation with all those who are involved into this thing. And this complexities and implementation have to be considered. Those stakeholders which I was mentioning over there, that alignment along with the strategies is to be thought about it. So this is essential for managing the complex relationship into the transformation. As we know, this various stakeholders have their own priorities. So bringing all those stakeholders onto one integrated platform and coordinate with them, starting from R&D, manufacturing, regulatory, is all it's required for a successful digital transformation. So your impact of initiative should be there to affect multiple departments simultaneously, because everyone has to really start looking, thinking about onto the same goal actually, and then that can help. So a comprehensive stakeholder alignment is really required, and once you do that, then it can reduce the time about the project delays and all that. That's a help organization can get it. But so I'm just trying to discuss from catalyst point of view. Now, what are the things which we'll have to really keep it in mind? So a change champion network is very important. That can really help you the achieving the success rate with throughout the entire organization. We have to value about the regulated environments and all that, and keeping in mind about the role of change champions. So we have to also have those champions who can really contribute between the transformation teams and operational department. So when I say transformation teams, it's you have a team which is really going to help teams to get trained, and then you are going to have operational department. So inter-operational departments are also to work together during this particular training, which will help to translate your strategic objectives into the practical guidance actually at a manufacturing level or a distribution level or a transportation levels and all that sort of a thing. And this requires the building up that network, which may take a 12 to 18 months. So these are the some rough estimate. This may vary from uh, organization size or the departments which you are covering, and all those details are to be thought about it. Quality management integration is another factor which we'll have to keep it in mind, is that success rates of the quality management integration is very important. And if you can achieve that 80% success rate by considerations of the quality at a very initial stage, so it is actually focusing on to the process improvements, quality parameters and all that sort of a thing. Importance of quality management also maintain the not only the product quality but also assure the patient safety and regulatory compliance documentation. These are the things also we'll have to take into considerations and all. And with this thing, I'm quite sure at least 90% compliances issues are getting it sorted out with a deep understanding about the GMP requirements, and quality risk considerations are also taken into consideration, which will also help you to give an impact onto the entire project timelines and all that. Process reengineering methodology is also required, and that can also help and contribute it into the high success rates. It may go 70-80% and all depending upon the level of maturity where you are working. In some of other videos, we discussed about the digital maturity level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how it can be achieved and all that. So I suggest you look at it, our other resources also onto our digital platform, and that will also help you to understand this particular focus onto the integration of digital transformation, and this will help in the regulatory compliance and quality standard. The constraints which are there is like validation requirement, change control procedure, documentation standards and all. So your initiative should be there to achieve the efficiency gain. You have to also keep a time frame in mind. It may be 18 to 24 months. It may be, again, as I mentioned earlier, it depends upon your company size, priorities, digital level of maturity. It may be 6 months, 12 months also, or may go to larger companies, larger locations, many locations and all, go to a higher level also. We have to also keep it in mind continuous improvement cycles actually. This is a continuous process. It's not a project that we plan it out for 3 months, 6 months or something like that. As you go on implementing it, you find that it's a data-driven decision making. So you will find more inputs will come, more innovations will come. You will find more areas for the improvements and all that, which you should really go on doing continuously. And this is where you should have a systematic approach onto continuous ongoing optimization, resource optimization, process optimization, operational excellence, business excellence, and all that. So this is a continuous process, and that will help to develop a sustaining transformation benefits and all that. And so formally also you have to keep in mind about the continuous improvement programs and all that sort of. Don't stop it at any particular stage. Risk-based decision making is another factor which you should really consider it, because the success rate depends upon the complexities of the change initiative, what really you are considering. whether you are considering only technological change, whether you are considering uh, process optimization change, whether you are looking at it, skills upscaling change or something, or you are looking for better integrations and all that. But if you look at it in a total, as I mentioned earlier, no, you should have that holistic approach and people, process, technologies, and all. If you consider all these factors together, definitely you will have a much better success rate and all that. So balancing innovations and regulation is there. This will also lead to more innovations will be there. And quantitative risk assessments, technologies, we should mention it out. As I mentioned about the digital maturity level, you can also define the quantitative risk assessments also to be considered into that. And finally, when you are looking at it from the management point of view, this is again a financial decision. So you have to also keep it in mind the ROI and financial performance. So how these improvements are going to give you the return on your investments along with the innovations and all that sort of a thing. So whether your internal rate of return is 4%, 5%, 7%, it has been observed that some of those documents have mentioned that it is around 6%, but you can also get a better also depending upon the thing. And it has also been observed that when you are moving from the first year to second year growth is much higher, and it will go on increasing comprehensively and all the other thing. Some of the savings mentioned into some compilation of the data that savings can be 20 million, 30 million in over 5 years' time. Of course, these are again depending upon the size of the company, organization, and the payback period can be 12 to 18 months and all, which is I'm quite sure looking at it, the benefits, looking at it, the competitions into the market, looking at it as a qualitative benefit, confidence with the patients or something like that, you will have a much better payback period and all that. So financial impacts also should be considered, reducing time required for the compliance documentation. So cost of compliance can come down. The delays in documentation and submitting the regulatory documentation can also come down. Operational efficiencies can be increased and also a lot of benefits are there. So if you look at it, industry-wise transformation trends, the technology, regulatory modification, patient care, value-based healthcare requirements, and complex changes. These are the some of the factors which I thought maybe you should consider it and all. So when you're looking at it as a technology, you should focus on to artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, and all that sort of a thing, and how this will contribute in drug discovery, clinical trials, and patient care and all. Regulatory requirement is, of course, into the digital document submissions to the regulatory authorities and how artificial intelligence can assist into review procedures and all that sort of thing. I have observed that the review procedures, which was really taking maybe months together, has now come down to weeks together and all that. Substantial saving into the manpower efforts or the skills efforts and all that sort of a thing. Patient-centric models are there because they build up more confidence, precision therapeutic data is available. The patient's data can also really help. And if you apply your AI and machine learning into that patient's data, you may be able to offer some better product, better services. Considering the genomic data, there is going to be a quite substantial improvements into the patient's confidence also. So value-based healthcare requirements are also going to be there. And this is again, as I'm coming to, is a complex change management challenge are there. So the change management methodology, how you should adopt to it. So I want to share some thoughts on to that also. Adopted methodologies are there. You should identify the unique constraints. What normally are been identified into such regulatory operations and all. You should modify the traditional approach to address the validations and regulatory approvals and all, and keeping in mind quality management systems into the thing. You should combine the change management principles with the regulatory understanding and all this sort of thing. So change management that discussed earlier also, that holistic approach can really help with the regulatory and quality standards and all. And that methodology you should be focusing on to the people side of change actually. Again, coming back to my earlier statement of holistic approach of people, processes, and technology. I know technology will definitely support to you. Process changing are comparatively easy, but changing into the people's mindsets is always a challenge. So you should always give that emphasis onto the people side and all, and that is where you will be able to achieve with a better success. So your implementation framework should be something like this. No, you have to require minimum 18 to 36 months, which will do the validation requirements to the regulatory approvals. No, because since we are working into the regulatory environment, so if you remember our titles was a change catalyst into the regulatory industry. So how it will move. So keeping these things in mind, your leadership and project management should really take those things into the consideration and design your project management capabilities according to that. And in a phased manner, if you really start working into that, we are sure that no, you will be able to deliver the value incrementally and then go on extending it to and then build up a confidence along with the full organization. So organization development strategies also to be thought about it. It's you have to have a unique cultural characteristics. We have to think about it, which should really start from hierarchy structures and all that, and keeping in mind about the commitment to the patients. Now that is what is there. Patient centricity is the key factor, key area, key focus. You should have it and all. So effective transformation approaches is really going to help higher adoption rate will be achieved it and all. And when you're planning this entire project about the transformation with the cultural change, you have to keep 3 to 5 years time period for sustainable transformation with the goals or the with the quantitative benefits or with the ROS which you have in mind and all that. So your leadership should have that commitment for over that particular time period and all. So balancing innovation and compliance is required, and you should plan the benefits accordingly. Now, where this emerging technologies role comes into the picture. So I'm just trying to work onto that also. So integration of artificial intelligence, machine learning, advanced analytics, this some of these technologies play a very important role. These are the primary technologies. The supporting technologies will be like IoT, blockchain, AR, VR, chatbox, and all that sort of thing. So these are the technologies are now going to create an opportunities for transformations and all the thing. And this requires a sophisticated change management approach, which I'm already discussing into this entire episodes and all that. And this will help in accelerating drug discovery. I know today drug discovery, drug development is taking a very long time and all that other thing. I'm very sure that if you look at it, artificial intelligence and machine learning with analytic, you can substantially reduce this drug discovery and drug development time period and all that thing, and clinical trials and this thing actually. Organization capabilities, regulatory framework, real-time evidence with the digital therapeutic and connected health data and all that. And this is what is the broader organizational transformation which you can think about it. So the strategic competencies have a certain advantages. The importance of transformation management, establishing sustainable competitive advantage encompasses the organization capabilities for continuous adoption, value-driven industry disruption. As we look at it into the complete digital supply chain management, there are possibilities of many disruption. It could be market condition, it may be regulatory requirement, it could be the patient's expectations and their needs and all that. These have to be taken into consideration along with the possible technology advancements which are really going to help the organization into the digital transformation. So development about the transformation excellence is a thought process should be there. You should build up that expertise into various areas, into change management, into regulatory intelligence system, as well as cultural development and all that. So these are some of those critical factors which will help in the future success and all that. So with this discussions, I'm coming to a conclusion of this particular session is strategic implementations of cultural change is there, which going to drive the organizational development, regulatory change management framework, which you will develop it along with the strategies and considerations of the technologies and all. This will support the sustainable business. Technology adoption will help in a better operational efficiencies and competitive advantage into the market condition. Leadership should be strong, which should really focus on to the long-term things which I discussed earlier, and that will help in the process optimization. So some of the references I always gave in my this presentation, but you can look out for the more details into our digital ecosystem. I'm quite sure you will gain a lot of benefits into this knowledge sharing, which is based on to our last 35 years of industry experience along with technology adoption and help. So do share us with your comments, share with your network. I'm quite sure this will help you. Thank you. Bye.